Alright, pre-calculus class, so this video is going to be on how to find the inverse of the following functions. Here with f of x, we have a quadratic function, and with g of x, we have a function with a square root, a radical function. So I'm going to walk you through the process of each of them and how to solve them. Okay, so in this one, we understand f of x to be our y value, and x to be, well, our x value, regular x value. So the first thing to do is to replace my y value, pretty much f of x, replace it by x, and switch my x value by y. So the only thing that changed is that my f of x became x and my x became y. All right, so now the next step to do is to leave y by itself. Okay, in the process of leaving y by itself, well, I have to first add 4 to both sides. This way, I get x plus 4 equals -5 times y plus 2 squared. These canceled out. The next thing, well, I have this -5 here. In class, we just had the negative, so we divided just by -1, both sides. This time we have -5, so we have to divide both sides by -5. This way, the -5s will cancel out. They divide out to 1, and I have this whole thing. So I will have, let me write it on this side, y plus 2 squared equals x plus 4 over -5. I know this time we have a fraction here, but the same process applies. Take the square root of both sides. This way, the square root and the square cancels out. So I'm only left with y plus 2 equals, don't forget the plus or minus when you square root, plus or minus the square root of x plus 4 over -5. And then finally, subtract 2 from both sides. This will cancel out. And my final answer will be y, which y in this case will be my f inverse. Y equals plus or minus the square root of x plus 4 over -5 minus 2. So remember that in this case, my y is my inverse. So I can also replace y and write f inverse of x. Okay, so I wouldn't need my y anymore. You can just rewrite it as f inverse of x to be equals to this, plus or minus the square root of x plus 4 over -5 minus 2. And that should be your final answer. All right, now let's do g of x. So for g of x, the same process applies. I'm going to change my g of x to be x equals 3 times the square root of y minus 4 minus the 5 outside. Let's walk through the same process. First, adding 5 to both sides. This way, these will cancel out to give me x plus 5 equals 3 times the square root of y minus 4. All right, the next thing is to get rid of this 3, so I can just divide both sides by 3. That way these 3 will divide out to 1, leaving me with, I'm going to put the square root on the other side, the square root of y minus 4 equals x plus 5 over 3. Also, the same thing applies here when we apply this, the squaring both sides. The whole thing squares. This gives me, these numbers cancel out, so I get y minus 4 equals, well, this pretty much this whole thing squared. X plus 5 over 3 squared. Almost there. Need to add 4 to both sides. This way these 4's will cancel out. And I get y equals, now check what I'm going to do over here. Notice that we have this squared, okay? That means that the square will distribute to this whole thing up here. It will also be distributed to the number down here. That means that I can have the top to be x plus 5 squared, and the bottom will also be 3 squared, but that is just 9 plus the 4. And then from there, we can do the same thing we did on the other problem. Just rewrite y as g inverse of x to be equals to x plus 5 squared over 9 plus my 4. And in this case, sorry about that, this will be my final answer.